In today's khutbah, the first one, I would like to talk about an important contribution by a non-Muslim country as far as the situation in Gaza Strip is concerned. You know, the relentless attack is still going on beyond the 100-day mark. The infrastructure, as we see, has been destroyed and more than 20,000 people have been killed. But the most important issue now that we see is the case presented by the Republic of South Africa at the International Court of Justice against Israel, accusing it of genocide against the Palestinian people. The crime of genocide is actually covered in 1948 UN Convention. And basically it refers to the acts committed with the intent to destroy either in part or in whole a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. The South African government argued that Israeli forces killed 23,210 Palestinians. Approximately 70% of them were believed to be women and children. South Africa also argued that the Israeli forces were often aware that the bombings would cause significant civilian deaths. Palestinians were killed in Israeli-declared safe zones, mosques, churches, hospitals, schools, as well as the refugee camps. 60,000 were wounded and 83% were displaced. One of the presenters of the South African team focused on the intent of genocide. And what this person did was, he looked at all the, and he displayed that also in the TV screen there in the proceedings. And I would urge you, it's a very powerful presentation. You need to go and listen to that. It's a 3-hour long presentation, but you can look at it. And the person who was promoting this case that there is intent of genocide, he looked at the speeches of the political leaders, from the president to the prime minister to cabinet ministers, all the way to their parliament members, and even the soldiers, and all to prove that they advocated the erasure of Gaza, the way they were talking about it, the symbolic words that they were using. The team put together by the Republic of South Africa was very impressive, consisting of highly qualified lawyers who presented their case eloquently, powerfully, and tinged with emotions. Although such a case takes a long time, even years, before the judgment is passed, whether genocide took place or not, but the South African team had argued that Israel has demonstrated an intent to commit genocide. So you don't have to wait for the final verdict. There should be an interim order for ceasefire. And this has become a very serious issue even for the state of Israel. And so, we indeed salute the Republic of South Africa for its leadership, courage, and the articulate way of presenting its case for the Palestinian people. Its team members were very impressive in their presentation. We thank South Africa for taking the initiative to take up this case, which should have been taken up by some of the powerful Muslim countries. We have something known as OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which has 57 member states. And the purpose of this OIC, the way they declared themselves, it is the collective voice of the Muslim world. They have permanent delegates at the UN as well as European Union, and yet OIC couldn't do anything. And this is where, on one side, we salute South Africa for taking this initiative. On the other side, we see the degradation of the Muslim countries collectively. And then we complain, where is Allah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just doesn't come in. You have to do your part. The harakat has to come from you before the barakat comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It reminds me of the statement of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. In the last will, which was not for the family, but for the members, for the followers, where he says something about Quran. The statement here is just one statement where he says, I urge you to hold on to the Quran. It shouldn't be that others use the Quran before you. When he uses the word others, it means it is possible that other nations who might not be Muslims from your community would be studying this book and taking the wisdom from it and using it. You should be the first one to implement it. And this is what we see, and that's why when you look at the situation of South Africa, it's indeed a very situation where we salute and thank them for this. It has been, of course, Muslims have played an important role in that country also. They are not in majority, but they have in the visit that I had a few years ago, I saw that Muslims who had migrated from India to South Africa long before this migration to East Africa. They have been there a long time, and they were actually part of the ANC movement during the apartheid era. I remember I went to one of the museums there, and they had pictures of their martyrs for their movement, and one of the shuhada that they had included was a Muslim imam who was in prison for fighting against the apartheid, and he died there. And so they have a history of being part of this movement there, and this has a very positive impact on the government and the people in power, although it's not a majority country. Maybe on a side note, if you go to South Africa, any of the fast food outlets, don't worry about it, it's all halal. Okay, this has been confirmed to be there, because of the impact of the Muslim business sector there, that all the Western fast food outlets, they all use halal meat. And so coming back from South Africa to Canada, it's also a pleasant change to hear that our Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister basically have declared that they will abide by all the rulings arising from South Africa's genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. It will take a long time, but at least, this willingness to say we will accept it, that itself has created a lot of, anxiety among certain circles here in Canada. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them the tawfiq to maintain their wisdom and justice.